Once upon a time, upon a cold winter's evening, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle!
It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew.
Bah, humbug.
No thanks, Uncle. I prefer a Mars bar myself. Now, you don't mean that, I am sure.
I do. Out upon Merry Christmas. If I had my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding, he should.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do you. Much good has it ever done you.
I have always thought of Christmas as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good, and I say God bless it.
Good afternoon.
I'll keep my Christmas humour to the last. So a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year.
Good afternoon.
Cheerio, Uncle. Oh, allow me, Madame. Here's a penny for your collection box. God bless you.
Many thanks, young man. Merry Christmas to you. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, we should all make some slight provision for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at the present time. A few of us are endeavouring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink, and means of warmth. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
I see you wish to remain anonymous.
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, ladies, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I certainly can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the prisons and the workhouses. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and indeed many would rather die.
If they would rather die, then they'd better get on with that and save us all some time and money.
Well, really.
The hour of shutting up the counting house arrived. Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern and went home to bed. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door of this house, except that it was very large, and yet Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, not a knocker, but Marley's face. Marley's face with a dismal, ghostly light about it. Scrooge blinked twice and looked again, and mercifully it was a knocker again. He shook his head and smiled at his fancies.
You silly old fool.
He closed the door with a bang. The sound resounded through the house like thunder. Every room above and every cask in the wine merchant's cellars below appeared to have a separate peal of echoes of its own. However, Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes, and he fastened the door and walked across the hall and up the stairs. Up Scrooge went, not caring a button for its being very dark. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge quite liked it. Quite satisfied, he closed his door and locked himself in, double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the very low fire to take his gruel. This was succeeded by a clanging noise deep down below, as if some person were dragging a heavy chain over the casks in a wine merchant's cellar. Then he heard the noise much louder on the floors below, then coming up the stairs, then coming straight towards his door. It came on through the heavy door, and a spectre appeared in the room before his eyes.
What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Better to ask me who I was.
Well, who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. You don't believe in me.
I don't.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because little mundane earthly things affect them. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blob of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. Mercy! Dreadful apparition! Why do you trouble me? Why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come to me?
It required of every man that the spirit within him should walk among his fellow men and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is considered to do so after death. I cannot rest, I cannot stay, I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me! In life, my spirit never roved beyond our money-changing hall, and weary journeys lie before me. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance of escaping my fate. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. Expect the first tomorrow night, when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second on the next night at the same hour, and the third upon the next night at the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more.
Scrooge tried to say humbug, but stopped at the first syllable, and being, from the emotion he had undergone, or the fatigues of the day, or his glimpse of the invisible world, or the conversation of the ghost, or the lateness of the hour, he went straight to bed, without undressing, and fell asleep upon the instant. When Scrooge awoke, the church clock tolled a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy 1. Light flashed up in the room upon the instant, and the curtains of his bed were drawn aside by a strange figure, like a child.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood in the busy thoroughfares of the city. It was made plain enough by the dressings of the shop that here too it was Christmas time.
Do you know this warehouse, Ebenezer?
No, it? Why, I apprenticed here many a happy year.
They went in, at the sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig, sitting behind such a high desk that, if he had been 2 inches taller, he must have knocked his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried in great excitement,
Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart. It's Fezziwig, alive again.
Ho there, Ebenezer, Dick.
A living, moving picture of Scrooge's former self, a young man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow prentice.
Go home, my boys. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up before a man can say Jack Robinson. Clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here.
The warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would ever desire to see upon a winter's night. In came Mrs. Fezziwig with a vast smile, and in came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In came all the guests, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow. Away they all went, 20 couples at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round, old top couple always turning up in the wrong place. When the clock struck 11, this ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig shook hands with every joyous person as he or she went out and wished them all a Merry Christmas.
A small matter to pay to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. He has spent but a few pounds of his money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is it so much that he deserves all this praise?
It isn't that spirit. He had the power to make us happy or unhappy, to make our service a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in words and looks, and things impossible to add and count them up. What then? The happiness he gave us is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. Oh, spirit, remove me from this place, haunt me no longer.
Exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, and further, being returned to his own bedroom, he'd barely time to reel to bed before he sank into a heavy sleep. Scrooge awoke in his bedroom. The walls and ceiling were hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove. Leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected back the light, and such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney. Heaped upon the floor, To form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, great joints of meat, pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, great bowls of punch, and immense 12th cakes. Upon the house there sat a giant glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch.
Come in, and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You have never seen the like of me before. Hang on to my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told, and held it fast. The room and its contents all vanished instantly, and they stood in the city streets upon a snowy Christmas morning. Scrooge and the ghost passed by, invisible, straight to Scrooge's clerks', and on the threshold of the door the spirit smiled, and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwellings with the sprinklings of his torch. Then up rose Mr. Cratchit.
Why has ever got your precious father then, and your brother Tiny Tim?
Look, see, there's poor father coming with Tiny Tim upon his shoulders.
In came Bob, the father, his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed, to look seasonable. Poor brave Tiny Tim bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
And how did little Tim behave?
As good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much, and thinks the strangest things you've ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in the church, because he was a cripple, and might be pleasant for them to remember, upon Christmas Day, who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
Master Peter and the two young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, with which they soon returned in high procession. Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy hissing hot. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigour. Miss Belinda sweetened up the apple sauce. Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table. The two young Cratchits set chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and crammed spoons into their mouths, lest they should shriek for goose before their turn came to be helped. At last the dishes were set on, and grace was said. It was succeeded by a breathless pause, as Mrs. Cratchit looked slowly all along the carving knife, prepared to plunge it into the breast. But when she did, and when the long-expected gush of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all round the table, and even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife.
And now I hope you all enjoy this festive plum pudding.
Oh, a wonderful pudding! Why is it lit up like a cannonball, blazing, and half a quartern of ignited brandy, crowned with Christmas holly?
At last the dinner was all done, the cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. Then all the Cratchit family drew round the hearth, while the chestnuts on the fire sputtered and crackled noisily. They were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. And when they faded, and looked happier yet in the bright sprinklings of the spirit's torch at parting, Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last. But the whole scene passed off, and he and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. Suddenly, as they stood together in an open place, the bell struck 12. Scrooge looked about him for the ghost, and saw it no more. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and, lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him.
Ghost of the future, I'd for you them more than any spectre I have seen. Will you not speak to me? Speak! Why do you not answer? What do you point at? Lead on, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me, I know. Lead on, spirit.
They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up around them, but there they were in the heart of it, amongst the merchants. The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen, Observing that the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk.
I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
What's he done with his money?
I haven't heard. Company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know.
The scene had changed, and now he almost touched a bare, uncurtained bed. A pale light, rising in the outer air, fell straight upon this bed, and on it, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the covered body of this unknown man.
Spirit, let me see some tenderness connected with this death, or this dark chamber. Spirit, will be forever present to me. Where do you take me now? Is this Bob Cratchit's house?
Mrs. Cratchit and her children were seated round the fire, quiet, very quiet, too quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and her daughter were engaged in needlework. The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face.
My eyes are hurting. They're better now again. It makes them weak by candlelight, and I won't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be nearer his time.
Past it rather, but I think he has walked a little slower than he used to these few last evenings, Mother.
I have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulders very fast indeed, but he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so it was no trouble at all. Ah, there is your father at the door.
She hurried out to meet him, and Bob came in. His tea was ready for him, and they all tried to see who should help him to the table first. Then the two young Cratchits got upon Bob's knees and laid a little kiss against each side of his troubled face.
Don't mind it, Father. Don't be grieved.
You silly sausages, I'm not grieved. How could I be with my lovely family? Look at this remarkable needlework. I am indeed the most blessed of men, with such fine children, and a lovely wife too.
You went to the grave today then, Robert?
Yes, my dear, I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised that I would walk there on a Sunday. My little child, my little child.
No, not Tiny Tim. This cannot be. Spectre, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me what man that was with the covered face, whom I saw lying dead.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him to a dismal, wretched, ruinous churchyard. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and, following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Am I the man who lay upon the bed? No, spirit. Oh, no, spirit, hear me. I'm not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been. Why show me this if I am all past hope? Show me that I yet may change these shadows that you have shown me by an altered life. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. Oh, tell me I may reverse the writing on this stone and upon young Tiny Tim's.
Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, Scrooge saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own. To make amends in, he was interrupted in his happy thoughts by the churches ringing out the lustiest peals he had ever heard. Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist, no night. Clear, bright, stirring, golden day.
I say down there, what's today, young laddie?
Aye?
What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Eve, sir.
Thank the Lord, it's Christmas Eve. I haven't missed Christmas. Hello, my fine fellow.
Hello.
Do you know the butcher's in the next street but one at the corner?
I should hope I did.
An intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one.
What, the one as big as me?
Oh, what a delightful boy. It is a pleasure to talk to you. Yes, my buck.
Why, it's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
What, me?
Yes, I'm in earnest. Go and buy it and tell them to bring it here, that I may give them the directions where to take it. Come back with the man and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown.
The boy was off like a shot.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. He shan't know who sent it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
Scrooge dressed himself all in his best, and at last got out into the twinkling lit-up streets. The people were by this time pouring forth, as he had ever seen them, with the ghost of Christmas present, and, walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded everyone with a delightful smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant, in a word, that 3 or 4 good-humoured fellows said,
Good morning, sir. A Merry
Morning,
Christmas
sir.
to you.
Morning.
Morning. Merry Christmas, sir.
He was early at the office next morning on Christmas Day. If only he could be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. Bob was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Bob's hat was off before he opened the door. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen, as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock.
Good day, sir. What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I am very sorry, sir. I am behind my time. It was a difficult day with Tiny Tim so ill, and it being Christmas Day and all. My wife was hoping that you could join us for Christmas dinner, as you are on your own. The mysterious benefactor has delivered us a wonderful turkey, and we would be happy to share our good fortune with you, sir.
My dear friend, let me shake your hand. I'd be happy to accept your kind offer. There's no more work today, for it's Christmas Day, and I'm about to raise your salary. Don't look so startled, man. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Bob. A Merry Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I've given you for many a year. I'll endeavour to assist your lovely struggling family.
Oh, I thank you, Mr. Scrooge.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, infinitely more, and to Tiny Tim, who did not die, became as good a friend and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some men laughed to see the alteration in him, but his own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well. May that be truly said of us, and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, everyone.